also joined by Jammu and Kashmir's Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha, as well as top officials of the J&K police and the administration as well. Such processions in Srinagar were banned during the rule of National Conference PDP and Congress under the diktats of the Sunni separatists in the Kashmir Valley over last almost 34 years. It's been 60 hours now since an Indian army soldier went missing from Kulgam of South Kashmir. 25-year-old Javaid Ahmad Wani, who was posted in Leh, was on a leave to celebrate festivities with family in Kashmir when he was allegedly abducted and his car was found abandoned with blood marks. Meanwhile, the Pakistani terror group Lashkar-e-Toiba's front, TRF, has released a statement indirectly hinting at execution of the Indian Army soldier. J&K police sources have told News 9 Plus that they are investigating all possible angles but haven't found any headway yet. It's been almost 3 days with no trace of the missing soldier. And finally, here on News 9 Live, we tell you early today morning, NIA carried out massive raids across Kashmir Valley in the districts of Pulwama, Shopian, Budgam, Srinagar and Kupwara in a case relating to involvement of NGOs in terror funding and stone pelting in the year 2010 and 2016 in the Kashmir Valley. While several properties were attached, many incriminating materials relating to terror funding were also recovered during the NIA raids. As you all know, NIA since 2017 has carried out systematic raids uprooting the entire nexus of Pakistani deep state with Kashmir-based separatist groups. And that brings us to the big questions that we are asking here in India's interest. Why were the political elite and Sunni separatists denying the right of Muharram procession to Shia population in Kashmir for the last 34 years? Why exactly was this happening? We'll be asking that on the show today. The second part of our big question is, even as NIA raids in Kashmir against terror funding complete almost 6 years, how long will it take to end this ecosystem of terrorism in the Kashmir Valley? We'll be debating that as well. And finally, as the nation prays for the safety of the missing Indian Army soldier Javaid Ahmad Wani, how soon can the security forces recover him from the clutches of terrorists? Let's get into the debate mode straight away. Joined by live on News 9 Live in India's interest, General Satish Dua, former GOC of Chinnar Corps. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. We have Danish Manzoor coming for the first time on News 9 Live, editor-director of Asian Newsweek. And finally, former DGP of Jammu and Kashmir, SP Vaid. As always, a pleasure having you, sir. Let me begin by, General Satish Dua. Sir, you saw those visuals coming in from Kashmir, unprecedented in many ways. Although there have been several unprecedented developments in the last 4 years, we'll be marking the 4th year of the abrogation of 370. But what was inside your mind as of now when you saw, in fact, continuously these visuals of Manoj Sinha and the entire administration with thousands of mourners of Shia, community. Unprecedented visuals, never seen before, at least in the last 35 years. Is this marking a new chapter in Kashmir's history?
Aditya, let me put it this way. Over the last 3 years, ever since Article 370 was abrogated, we have been talking, at least I have been going up, I have been one of those who've been supporting the thing and saying that, well, we are nearing normalcy, there's been Panchayat Raj, there's tourists are coming, the Amarnath Yatra, the strength is increasing and so on and so forth. But every time the naysayers said, I will not name the leaders, but the naysayers said, no, this is not normalcy, cannot be counted as normalcy and so on and so forth. But I put it to you this way, that holding of this Ashura procession, I think the Muharram procession, I think if this is not normalcy, then what is it? For last, as you brought out, 34 years, 1988, after General Ziaul Haq's death, I remember it was coincided with that the processions were banned. And they have been banned precisely on the diktats of the Sunni terrorist leaders. So we haven't had the main procession. And I have served long enough in Kashmir to know there have been small processions here and there. Badgam, my center, my Jackalai training, regimental training center is in Badgam. Badgam does have some processions. But the main procession that goes through the town, goes through downtown Lal Chowk, that has not happened. The Lieutenant Governor participating in it is symbolic of return of good times, and I don't think anyone can doubt that this is one more very significant step in, or a nail in that coffin of the fact that we are moving towards normalcy. I'm very overjoyed by this.
You're overjoyed, sir, but you also mentioned that you'll be not naming the leaders. Let me name the leaders. We had Farooq Abdullah as the Chief Minister. We had Mufti Muhammad Sayyid as the Chief Minister. We had Umar Abdullah as the Chief Minister. We had Mehbooba Mufti as the Chief Minister. We had Ghulam Nabi Azad as well. But why exactly weren't these leaders of National Conference, PDP and the Congress Party, and perhaps I should join BJP also because PDP, BJP were in government, all these 34 years they were not able to do it, but an LG's administration has been able to do it. Let me tell my producers to play a bite of Farooq Abdullah that is coming in, and then I'll go to Mr. Vaid and Danish.
हम लोग पहले भी ये चाहते थे ये हो, मेरे वक्त में भी हम चाहते थे ये हो, मगर हमारे कुछ लोग थे जो इसके खिलाफ थे। मैं उनका नाम नहीं लेना चाहता, वो गुजर गए इस दुनिया से, नहीं तो क्या वजह है कि ये नहीं होता था। मैं खुद इस जुलूस के साथ चला हूं, मैं आबी गुजर से कत्लगाह तक आया हूं, मैं देखा है कहां कहां मुश्किलें नहीं उठाई हमने, और सब हिंदू मुसलमान सिख सब इसका खैर मकदम करते थे, और मैं जुल्जना को पकड़ के चलता था। अल्लाह का शुक्र है कि आज ये शुरू हुआ, मगर अभी ये जुल्जना वहां से नहीं निकलता आबी गुजर से। इंशाअल्लाह जब इंशाअल्लाह अल्लाह ताला यहाँ की हुकूमत लाएगा, जुल्जना वहीं से निकलेगा और अभी और शान से आएगा कत्लगाह तक।
Danish, I hope you heard that statement, and since you belong from the Kashmir Valley and you've seen the hypocrisy of both the mainstream political leaders and separatists, ये कौन है? फारूक अब्दुल्ला किन का जिक्र कर रहे हैं जो चल बसे, जो जिंदा नहीं हैं? क्या ये सैयद अली शाह गिलानी का नाम ले रहे हैं या किन का नाम ले रहे हैं जिनके डिक्टेट पे, आप सोचिए, हुर्रियत के डिक्टेट पे, गिलानी के डिक्टेट पे जो है महबूबा मुफ्ती, मुफ्ती सईद, फारूक अब्दुल्ला, उमर अब्दुल्ला शिया कम्युनिटी को अपना रिलीजियस हक नहीं दे रहे थे? इज दैट सो, दानिश?
Thank you, Aditya. I think what the clip that you played just now of Dr. Farooq Abdullah, I think it's a damning evidence in itself, which proves that something was off in Jammu and Kashmir. With this admission in public, in front of our friends in media, Farooq Abdullah has just proven what the people of Jammu and Kashmir have long been scared to state, that there was somebody, whether it was Sayyid Ali Shah Gilani, whether it was any of these separatist elements, secessionist elements who were active in Jammu and Kashmir. The point here remains that how scared were these elected, quote-unquote, chief ministers, leaders, rulers of Jammu and Kashmir, of these handful of Pakistan and ISI-sponsored secessionists, that they would deny the right to the Shia community on the pretext of security and their safety only. So clearly it wasn't just the security and safety. It was also the diktats that they were scared of. So I think Farooq Abdullah in itself has clearly, that's safe to say, incriminated all the other chief ministers, all the other state parties over there in Jammu and Kashmir today.
Yes, this is a damning evidence, but we have a top cop with us who has served in Kashmir, in the most dangerous circumstances, Mr. S.P. Vaid. So you have lived this entire era in Kashmir where, you know, we saw the Muharram procession and we didn't see the Muharram procession in the last 34 years. What are your comments when you hear Farooq Abdullah, when you actually see those visuals of thousands of Shias coming out expressing their freedom of religion finally after 34 years? What goes through your mind, sir?
See, Aditya, I will also express my glee and happiness, as General Dua said, we are all thrilled to see that this procession was taken out this year, and whole administration, including Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha, participated. Nothing could be more demonstrative than this, that the intention of the security forces and the administration is very, very clear. But I was also hearing the clip you played of Dr. Farooq Abdullah. There is no denying of the fact that there was a very strong lobby of separatist elements, particularly Sunni. I think my hunch goes he was referring to Sayyid Ali Shah Gilani. What I can make out, there was a very strong lobby about threatening, about situation turning into bad law and order if you take out this procession, and probably the administration under the political dispensation succumbed to that pressure. I think that has been blown off, and now the Shias must be very, very happy. I have been SP Badgam before 89 or 90. Badgam, we used to take out procession. All communities used to participate. All religions, all political parties, everyone would participate. In fact, the largest Shia concentration is in Badgam district, apart from Badgam Patan area of Baramulla district. So we have been allowing this in Badgam and in other areas. But yes, Srinagar, there were always I remember since 89, the procession was banned, not allowed, probably on security considerations, and it's very happy to see that this procession was allowed this year.
Right.
And I think that that demonstrates how much situation has improved, and all these threatening elements are no more today active in Kashmir Valley. That demonstrates the change in situation on the ground.
Absolutely, it's a historic move. In fact, I remember the headline of the Greater Kashmir newspaper, the most widely read newspaper in Srinagar, which clearly indicated after 34 years. The significance of this statement is huge. But we've to step into another debate now at this stage, and that is no trace of the Indian Army missing soldier for the last 3 days. There have been efforts by the security forces and the J&K police. In fact, top sources in the J&K police have told me that they're investigating all three possible angles. One, abduction by terrorists. Second, abduction by criminals. And third is the most and the least expected one, that whether that army Jawan has joined the terror ranks. As of now, the Lashkar-e-Toiba's mouthpiece TRF has released a statement on the dark web indicating that they've executed him, but there's no proof or substance to this statement. There's no evidence whatsoever. Where exactly is Javaid Ahmad Wani? Let's listen into this bite that is coming in, and then we'll go to the experts.
मिलिटेंसी डाउन है मगर आउट नहीं हुई है। इसमें अभी भी ऐसे अंसर शामिल हैं जो कहीं न कहीं जहां के अमनो अमान को खलल पहुंचाने की कोशिश करते हैं, उनके खिलाफ सख्ती से कार्रवाई की जा रही है। ये जवान जो कुछ दिन पहले जिसका मिसिंग का रिपोर्ट हमारे पास आया है, उसके लिए पुलिस, आर्मी और फोर्सेस की टुकड़ियां और बाकी जगह पे जिले पुलिस की कार्रवाई चल रही है। हम लोग उम्मीद करते हैं कि वो सही सलामत होना चाहिए, मगर अभी तक कोई खास ठोस हमारे पास क्ल्यू नहीं है जिसकी बुनियाद पर हम कह सकें कि एक्चुअल ग्राउंड की पोजीशन क्या। कुछ एक बड़े इम्पोर्टेंट लीड्स मिले हैं जिसके ऊपर डिस्ट्रिक्ट पुलिस अपना काम कर रही है, बाकी फोर्सेस भी काम कर रही हैं, और उनके फर्दर जो है प्रोग्रेस के बाद ही उसके बारे में बात कर सकेंगे।
Let me get in General Dua at this stage. General Dua, you heard Dilbag Singh, the DGP of J&K Police, saying that the missing report was filed by the family, and for the last 3 days they've been investigating, and search ops have been carried out in Kulgam and several other areas of South Kashmir. You know, this reminds me of that horrific incident in 2018 when Aurangzeb was really kidnapped. I remember I was in my studio and the SP of Shopian at that particular stage, or one of the districts in South Kashmir, called me and informed me that, you know, we've lost Aurangzeb, and that is the a very horrific news that came in at that particular stage. Those visuals later of Aurangzeb really went viral. What do you expect with Javaid Ahmad Wani? The news that you have been tracking for the last 3 days. He's been missing. There were blood marks that were seen in his car, an abandoned car, but nothing so far in the last 3 days. No evidence of him being abducted. He's completely missing.
Aditya, both Aurangzeb as well as Javaid Ahmad Wani, both belong to the same regiment as I do. We are all from Jammu and Kashmir Light Infantry Regiment. And let me at the outset say that my soldiers run this risk. They always are at risk when they are at home. And we are talking only of cases of, abduction. And in Aurangzeb's case, he was eventually killed. There are also, I've been corps commander there, and during that time, post Burhan Wani's elimination, when the valley was burning, we've had a couple of our Havaldar's houses which were burnt. So there is collateral damage that soldiers face, and amongst the soldiers we belong to J&K and especially Kashmir Valley. Jakalai is the predominant regiment. So as far as this particular soldier is concerned, it does conjure up visions of what happened to Aurangzeb. You've already listed out the 3 possibilities, and with this statement of TRF, which is sort of creeping in, one can assume the worst, one can hope for the best, and we would like to pray for his safety, and that he returns safely to his family and comes back to the army. I would like to just end by saying that on the social media also a lot of people are asking me this question. So why can't they be protected? Everyone has to understand that soldiers live in their homes, in their villages. They are targeted only because they are army men, and this is a cross that we have to bear.
Well, certainly we are praying that Javaid Ahmad Wani is recovered and his family's prayers are answered. We heard a mother yesterday, we did a show yesterday also indicating that they do have no clue, but they suspect that terrorists might have abducted him. Mr. Vaid, if I can come to you, we heard Dilbag Singh talk about important leads that they might have in launching their operations to recover Javaid Ahmad Wani. But how difficult is it? Because this happens in Kulgam. I would say that after Pulwama and perhaps Shopian, one of the worst districts affected by terrorism. How important is it for J&K police to continue these operations? Because it's a wide area that they are looking at, and it seems that apart from few clues, there's not much that they have at this stage.
Yes, Aditya, it's very difficult terrain also, and difficult operation as well, because your Jawan is in their custody. Any wrong move would risk his life, and one has to be very, very careful. We have faced such cases in 2016, 17, 18. A lot of army, as you said, Aurangzeb, I recall how horrific that was. Similarly, CAPF Jawans, J&K policemen, many of them, when they were on leave, they were abducted, killed, attacked. That is the risk the local boys of Kashmir Valley do face, whichever force they belong, army, J&K police or paramilitary. And as General Dua was saying, I think they are being targeted, obviously, because they are either in the army or CAPF or J&K police. So this is just done to demoralize the local cadre of the security forces.
Right.
And in fact, even in I recall even in 16, 17, when this abduction and attacks on the local boys was at its peak, we used to advise our boys that instead of taking risk of going home, call your relatives here. But often you feel homesick. It is natural human instinct that he would like to go and see the mother, see his wife, our children. because everyone can't keep their families at family stations. They are not family stations, and everyone can't keep their families with them. And this is a risk local boys face.
Absolutely, this is a risk that the local Kashmiri boys really face who are in the security forces, paramilitary or the Indian Army. Same is the case with Javaid Ahmad Wani. He was on leave, posted in Leh to celebrate festivities with his family, and it seems that he was abducted with no trace for over 72 hours. Now, Danish, we are also getting reports that there are NIA raids that are underway all across the Kashmir Valley at this stage through the districts of Kupwara, Srinagar, Budgam, Pulwama and Shopian. In fact, I spoke to senior officers of the NIA who tell me that Parvez Imroz, a so-called human rights activist, was also searched in these raids. There were others who were also searched and raided, and this is for NGO terror funding racket that's been running there for years, and how money was paid for stone pelting and law and order situation in the year 2010 and 2016. So Danish, what do you make of the situation? Since 2017 NIA raids have continued. It has been a major impact in the Kashmir Valley. We've seen separatists including Hurriyat and JKLF completely shut their shop. We've seen stone pelting ending completely, terrorism graph coming down. But how long will it take? Do you think that this is perhaps a battle for a few years at least, if not more?
Aditya, I think as far as shutting shop is concerned, I think we are still a little far from there. The infrastructure of secessionist and terrorist elements sponsored by the ISI and Pakistan Army in Jammu and Kashmir has been there for past 40, 45 years, if not more. They've been there, they've been trying to build their institution, they've managed to infiltrate the state, they've managed to infiltrate the civilian institutions as well, including the non-government organizations, the not-for-profits, as we call, right? So we have seen how these quote-unquote so-called human rights groups and human rights elements would always look at only one-sided picture of things. I believe nobody would mind that if they look at both the sides, but 99% of these NGOs, these so-called groups, would always look at one-sided, and most of the times they would manufacture or twist or spread disinformation, right, at the behest of Pakistan. In the last 1 year itself, I believe NIA has managed to conduct around 32 raids in Jammu and Kashmir so far, to do with either Jamaat Islami or narco-terror, or now in this case, these NGOs and human rights organizations. The point is this, that as long as we are moving in the right direction, it's a good sign. As long as New Delhi believes that we have to keep a set policy when it comes to dealing with these elements with an iron hand, and there can't be any gray area anymore, and that's what we have seen so far, I think it's a good fight that has been fought on the ground.
Well, it will be a good fight that will be fought. I'm running out of time, but very thankful to General Dua, Danish Manzoor, and of course the former DGP, Mr. SP Vaid, for joining us. I wish we had more time, but we have to slip into this documentary that I have made, Is Jihad Dying in Kashmir, where I travel to Kashmir and in fact tell you the ground reality on the terror graph decreasing, but we cannot forget the guard. We need to maintain the counter grid to tackle terrorism on the LOC and across the hinterland, and in fact give a strong response to Pakistan sponsored terrorism. Keep watching Is Jihad Dying in Kashmir. The jihad machine brainwashed Kashmiri youth.
We saw it going so bad.
We were not prepared for it.
Phases of turbulence. जम्मू एंड कश्मीर के पीएको को आप भारत का हिस्सा नहीं मानते हो क्या? एग्रेसिव ना हो, जान दे देंगे इसके लिए।
Today we have a good control.
There is a feeling of normalcy that is setting in.
Kashmir, marred by conflict and violence. For decades, the shadow of Pakistan-sponsored terror had eclipsed the Muslim majority region. Local youth were radicalized in the late 1980s by Pakistan's spy agency, Inter-Services Intelligence. High on the idea of jihad, a religious war in the name of Islam that terrorized the Indian state. Many of them crossed the border to be trained by the jihadis. 4 years since the abrogation of Article 370, a semblance of calm has returned to the valley. Infiltration of terrorists from Pakistan is at an all-time low. Peace no longer seems to be a distant dream.
I nostalgically remember Kashmir since the first time I went there in 1980 December. We could move from our transit camps, board a public transport bus, go to Lal Chowk, come back, go to a movie hall, and that was the time when we were waiting for the next move. So our transit camps were the place where we halted, and then we saw it going so bad.
Since partition, Pakistan has been charged with supporting anti-India demonstrations in Jammu and Kashmir through local agents in an effort to sow seeds of unrest and instability in the region. In the 1980s, Pakistan Army and the ISI took advantage of the temporary special status to Jammu and Kashmir to spark sentiments. They used mosques and madrasas to perpetuate a radical Islamist ideology and anti-India rhetoric. The jihad machine brainwashed Kashmiri youth. They recruited them as overground workers to support Islamist terror groups who attacked Indian security forces. Street protests, stone pelting and violence surged.
As far as mental part is concerned, jihad is very strongly entrenched. The institutions, peddling that jihad narrative, particularly the mosques and the radical leaders, they are pretty much alive. But yes, terrorism is certainly on the decline.
I think there's a far greater understanding of hybrid war. What have started in the 80s and the 90s, continued through the 90s, was all hybrid war. We were not prepared for it. We responded more militarily, more kinetically and things like that. Today, the government of India is undertaking what is called an all-of-government approach all over Jammu and Kashmir. It's not easy.
The spurt in the anti-minority sentiments triggered the largest exodus of Kashmiri Pandits in 1990. Massacres, rape and other violent acts against the minority made them flee the valley.
Post 1989 and the Kashmiri Pandits being tortured and pushed out of their homeland. And thereafter, the stone pelting combined with infiltration and the violence levels which ISI was orchestrating from across, and the added element of Jamatis and the Hurriyat, all that got complicated somewhere between 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10.
The valley had been bloodied and battered for over 3 decades. Life came to a standstill every time Hurriyat conference called for a shutdown. Civil liberties were throttled and the people were held hostage by Islamist extremists. While the regional political parties remain mute spectators, often being supportive of alienating Kashmiris from mainland India. They came to be known as the Gupkar gang. All this changed with a historic move by the Government of India on 5th August 2019.
जम्मू एंड कश्मीर के पीएको को आप भारत का हिस्सा नहीं मानते हो क्या? एग्रेसिव ना हो, जान दे देंगे इसके लिए। क्या बात कर रहे हो आप? एग्रेसिव होने की क्या बात कर रहे हो?
The government abrogated Article 370 and passed the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act. The special status of Jammu and Kashmir was removed. The state was bifurcated into 2 union territories, namely Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, in a major move towards restoring normalcy. Since then, the security situation has improved dramatically. Incidents of terror have reported a declining trend and the number of fatalities have also reduced.
There are no violent protests with stone pelting in the cities and streets that you used to see earlier. There is no violence on the streets by and large. Even the encounters with terrorists or recruitment into terrorism, into terrorist groups has come down drastically. None of it is zero, but everything has come down drastically.
Kashmir has had has had phases of turbulence, and the most recent one being its most violent and the longest phase has finally is seeing diminishing attrition.
We are also seeing new trends like hybrid terrorists. The idea is to gain international attention, and soft targets like targeted killings of migrant labor. This is all they can do. Earlier they used to be attacking security forces and things like that. So these are the trends we are seeing, more as a compulsion to do something. There is a feeling of normalcy that is setting in. The terrorist groups, they are handlers across, and they have to prove it to each other that they have to try and banish this feeling of feel-good feeling.
We have been very effectively been able to control Kashmir, the Kashmir part north of Pir Panjal. The Jammu side, the south of the Pir Panjal, is emerging as the more worrisome area now. And this is the area which by 2008, 9, 10, terrorism had vanished from here. And the Jammu and Kashmir police had actually declared this is a terrorist-free area. This is an area where there is, Poonch has got 90% Muslim population perhaps. But as you come south, you find a balance of population. Targeting of minorities, Hindu families, etc. has taken place in Rajouri, as you're aware. And this is an area where Pir Panjal itself offers tremendous hideouts. Rocky outcrops, jungle terrain, the area between Rajouri and Poonch in particular, the higher tracks.
See, there is no doubt the situation in Jammu and Kashmir has improved considerably. Radicalization is down, terrorism is down.
Terrorism is certainly on the decline because India has taken some of the very strong kinetic measures.
The Rashtra Rifles came up only in the early and mid-90s. We did not have a doctrine by which we would look at this whole concept of balancing out hard and soft power of the army. All that is in place today. So it's not easy to increase terrorist strength. It's not easy to do recruitment because our intelligence agencies are doing an excellent job on that. So I think by and large today we have a good control.
At the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Foreign Ministers gathering in Goa, when the Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, said meaningful discussions between India and Pakistan cannot happen until Article 370 is restored. The day Bhutto was in Goa, 5 Indian personnel were killed in an encounter with terrorists in Poonch. This was days after 5 Indian Army soldiers were killed in a terror attack in the same Jammu region. A Pakistan-based outfit, Jaish-e-Mohammad splinter group, claimed responsibility for both these terror attacks. India's Minister for External Affairs, Dr. S. Jaishankar, slammed Bhutto over his remark.
Victims of terrorism do not sit together with perpetrators of terrorism to discuss terrorism. Victims of terrorism defend themselves, counter acts of terrorism, they call it out, they delegitimize it, and that is exactly what is happening. So to come here and preach these hypocritical words as though we are on the same boat, I mean, they are committing acts of terrorism.
That the valley is on the road to peace is evident with Srinagar hosting its first ever G20 meeting.
India is making a very strong, bold statement to the world. And I think there should be no compromise at all on this issue of the tourism meet which is taking place in Srinagar. It's a very good projection to the world. It is actually embedding the whole idea of the Article 370 having been done away with, etc., Kashmir being fully integrated with India.
After 3 decades of terror and bloodshed, Kashmir hosting a global diplomatic event is historic. While Pakistan is gripped with political, economic and security chaos, India is engaging with the international community in Kashmir, once the hub of jihadi terror. New Delhi wants to send out a loud and clear message to the entire world.
I rise to oppose the introduction of the bill under the nomenclature the Government of National Capital Territory of Delhi Amendment Bill 2023 under Rule 72 of Rules of Procedures and Conduct of Business, as the bill vindicates the outrageous infringement of this government upon the territory of the states. It is designed of digging up a graveyard graveyard for cooperative federalism. सर, ये विधायक निर्वाचित दिल्ली विधानसभा से सेवाओं से संबंधित मामलों को कानून बनाने की शक्ति को वापस ले लेता है। बड़े संक्षेप में 4 बिंदु पे बात करना चाहते हैं।
ये तो आप जब डिटेल
पॉइंट पे आप तो ये संविधान की 7वीं अनुसूची के तहत सेवाएं राज्य का विषय है, इसलिए एनसीटी विधानसभा को एनसीटी की सेवाओं से संबंधित सभी विषय पर बिना किसी गतिरोध अड़चन के कानून पारित करने का अधिकार होना चाहिए था। इस प्रकार यह विधायक संविधान का स्पष्ट उल्लंघन है, क्योंकि अनुच्छेद 239 के स्पष्ट रूप से दिल्ली विधानसभा को राज्य और समवर्ती सूची में सूचीबद्ध मामले पर कानून बनाने की शक्ति प्रदान करता है। इससे संविधान की अपेक्षा करने और उच्चतम न्यायालय की अनदेखी करने में केंद्र सरकार की दृष्टिकोण को बारे में गंभीर प्रश्न उठता है। इस विधायक का उद्देश्य उच्चतम न्यायालय की फैसले से ज्यादा स्थापित दिल्ली सरकार के अधिकार और उसकी स्वतंत्रता को कम करने का है। उच्चतम न्यायालय के फैसले को बदलने की कोशिश कर और दिल्ली सरकार के मामले में हस्तक्षेप कर केंद्र सरकार संघवाद के
सर, आई राइज टू आप बोलना जब बिल पे डिबेट हो तो आप जितनी देर कहेंगे आपको पर्याप्त मौका देंगे। आप अभी विषय क्या है कि विधायी पावर है नहीं, ये विषय है ना।